is she actually does a stitch out on those machines. And we include that actually as part of our ad. But just to be sure that it actually works, it's really helpful if you've got the box that your item came in. You can pack things to be shipped, and you can do it safely, and I do it all the time. But from a differentiation standpoint, if you have something that's in the original box, it's more appealing to a buyer. And if I actually think it actually has some market value, if I think that there's trying to sell an obsolete item, a buggy whip is the classic example, chances are I'm not going to be able to sell it. There's advantages, in my opinion, to using eBay. Obviously, I'm a fan of eBay because we've been so successful with it. Anybody can do it. It is truly a global marketplace. We have sold items all over the world: China, Korea, Brazil. I exclude the Eastern Bloc countries and India and a couple of others simply because I don't have confidence in the shipping system there. But otherwise, we sell all over. There's almost nothing that you can put on eBay that doesn't have a competitor for it. So that's good and bad, right? So you don't want that much competition, but the ability to be able to establish a market price and the attractive features is really helpful using eBay. It's safe and secure, and it's contact free, and you get your money without any problems. And if you don't get your money, eBay will be on your side in getting it. So it's really a helpful, it's very a secure environment. Disadvantages, which could also be an advantage in some cases, it's a highly controlled environment. There are rules, there are required fields when you list your item. There's things that you can ship, things you're not allowed to ship. You can read the rules and determine that. But it is a highly controlled environment. I personally like that. You have to be on your game. In other words, if overnight offers or questions come in, or even payments, meaning that's a trigger for shipping an item, you got to be paying attention. If I go a couple, 3 days without, responding to it, things can pile up, and it damages your reputation. And your reputation, as I'll highlight later, is important. It's highly competitive. There's almost nothing you can put out there that doesn't have something that's close or exactly the same as what you have to sell. Again, good and bad. But it's a great market for establishing a price, and it's where people go to buy things. And of course, you have to pay eBay, and I'll talk about their fees in a bit. There's other options. Obviously, you can go to Facebook Marketplace. I've never used Facebook Marketplace. As I understand it, it is as close to eBay as any of the competitors, just in terms of its global reach and its systems and security and so forth. Craigslist, much more local, as is Nextdoor. Garage sales, very local. You can always do that. Common interest forums on the internet, forums that you may be familiar with, where people, share your hobby, your interest in sewing and quilting and crafts, and you can go in there and offer stuff for sale. I'm a bicyclist, and on the bicycle forums that I belong to, there's always good stuff for sale, very local. You may have a friend who wants it, and you can shop it around, or you can just go out on the corner and put your item up for sale, and that could be fun, except this time of year. All of these are viable, and depending on your item, your personal situation, how much time you have or don't have, they can work. Other than eBay, the market narrows significantly, good and bad. They tend to be lowest or lower prices. Completed sales, because you have less traffic, can be much slower. Especially once you get past the Facebook Marketplace as an option, the ability to have a controlled, safe, and secure transaction and payment goes way down, because you're starting to have to interface directly, even face-to-face with buyers. You're having to trust that they're going to bring money, ideally cash, which for higher priced items can be a challenge. But those are some of the negatives to not using eBay. Ultimately, it's the same amount of effort as it is to put something on eBay. So why not put it on eBay, get the higher price, get a faster, safe, secure sale, and a contactless transaction. So over the years, Amy and I have kind of developed what we think are really important to success, meaning selling stuff on eBay. Here's something Amy is really good at and helps me a lot, especially when it comes to sewing items, sewing and quilting items with which I may not be as familiar. Just write up a great description. I'll show you one later in our discussion. eBay allows you 12 photos without any additional cost. I see people put expensive items out, meaning $100 or more, and they'll put 2 photos. And typically they're lower quality, meaning not good lighting. They may have moved, so it's blurry, and so forth. In a internet environment, selling items, having great photos, and your iPhone or your Android takes great photos. So use all 12 photos so people can see and you know, from all angles and so forth. Be realistic with a competitive price. And I'll talk a little bit more about pricing because that's one of the key things to selling your items, you know, in a bit. You want to be quick to get back to people. It doesn't have to be instantaneous. I usually, you know, finish dinner and even if stuff comes before I answer, if stuff comes in overnight, I wait till I've had breakfast and so forth. But I try to be prompt because that also differentiates you. As there might be multiple of your same item out there, and you know the person who responds fastest gets the sale sometimes. So I guarantee that I will ship everything I sell within 48 hours. And I usually do it within, if it's early in the morning, I'll get it out that day. If it's, I don't think I've ever gone the full 48 hours. And people really appreciate that, and they'll give you a good rating on that. And I'll talk about feedback a little bit later. I offer a full return policy. They got to pay to send it back, and I'll give them a full refund, but they have to pay to send it back. When you get into lower dollar items, you know, $5 and $8 and $10 and $12 items, which we've sold a lot of, you know, I have to be honest with you, I'll give them a full refund and let them keep it because it's not worth the freight. I've already invested freight to get it out there. And particularly if they're out on the West Coast, I'm not going to pay to have it shipped back. I've only had less than a handful of those over the last 15 years where I've actually taken a return or provided a full refund and told them just to keep it. And in one of those cases, it was somebody I didn't actually really believe my item was damaged, but you know, I gave him a full refund anyway. So, and also the using PayPal. So eBay has limited the way that you can get paid and that you can pay for items that you purchase over the years. So you can't use cash anymore. They had a COD type process. They don't do that anymore because there was too many people who didn't pay. They're almost exclusively now PayPal. You can also use a credit card. And they're transitioning from PayPal to, because they sold the PayPal company, they're now implementing eBay managed payments, which is going to be similar and hopefully a little bit better and a tad cheaper than PayPal, but with similar integration, meaning that when somebody buys something, it automatically hits your PayPal or eBay managed payments account. And when you get paid, you get an email from eBay. So it's really cool. So I really like that integration. There are rules for selling stuff on eBay. You need to read them. They're not onerous, but they do, the key ones talk about what you can and can't sell. You can't rip off somebody's descriptions. You can't rip off their photos. And believe it or not, people do that, and so forth. And so read those. I'm not going to go through those now. They're not prohibitive, but they are clear. As I mentioned, there's fees for selling on eBay. Most of the things you're going to sell are going to be a 35% listing fee, an insertion fee, they call it, and they get 10% of the selling price, not the asking price, the selling price. For books, DVD, music, they get a little bit more of a percentage. For some reason, musical instruments and gear get a break. And I sold a karaoke machine, for example. We were pretty good karaokers. But, I didn't have to pay an insertion fee on that and a really low commission. And eBay has a published fee structure for your item. Most of the stuff that you're going to sell out of your household are going to be the 35 cents per listing and 10% of the selling price. So you know up front what you're going to pay. They automatically bill you if you have a PayPal or eBay managed payment account. They'll automatically hit that account for their payment. It's really a frictionless transaction. So, I'd like to talk about the value proposition. And I might add, and I don't know if you said this, Kathy, if you've got questions as I'm going along, jump in to make this more of a conversation and less of a me droning on and on. But I'm going to continue to move forward until somebody has a question, and we can take those as we go. Alternatively, we can have a Q&A at the end.
I just wrote that in the chat. As soon as you said that, I was in the middle of saying on the chat that if anyone has a question, to please unmute yourself. And I also said if you didn't want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to write it in the chat, and then I would be able to ask it to you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Kathy. That's great. So, while 10% may seem like a high fee, you are getting access to a safe, secure global marketplace. And it is almost a certainty, if the right conditions exist for pricing and condition and so forth, that you will sell your item. There are people who will take your item and sell it for you. In other words, you contact them, they come pick up your sewing machine or your sewing accessories and so forth, and they will take that, they'll photograph it, they'll get descriptions of it, they'll do the listing, they'll negotiate with the buyers, they'll pack and ship it for you, and they get 30 to 50% of the selling price. I personally believe that they earn their money. Haven't done it, for myself, a lot, but you can do this. It takes a little bit of effort to get started and a little bit of getting familiar with the process. But I'm telling you, once you do it, you're going to find that it's just not that difficult. And when we go on, back in the days, I don't really remember when we used to go on vacation, but we used to go on vacation, leave the house, for days at a time. I would just delist all of my stuff. There's an option for doing that, so I don't have to worry about, that type of thing. There's some things that you're going to need to be able to effectively get something ready for sale and then to ship it. Little scale, I bought this on Amazon for less than $20. It says that it measures up to 50 pounds. I've only found it to really be that accurate at, less than that. So I only use it for items up to 10 pounds. I don't actually sell that many things over 10 pounds. Obviously, a sewing machine weighs more than 10 pounds. An embroidery unit weighs more than 10 pounds. And I'll show you an option we have for that. Typical stuff that you have around the house for packaging. This is what we use. So I'll stand on the scale and weigh myself, and then I'll put the item in my hands, the sewing machine or whatever it may be. And then the difference, of course, is what the item weighs. And then you're going to need a box to put it in, and you're going to need a box if you don't have original packaging, which is the best, a box that your item will fit in and has room to pack your bubble wrap and your packing paper around. We get a lot of stuff from Amazon, and so we save, I collapse and save our Amazon boxes. You may have that as well. If you know somebody who does that, they can have boxes. And occasionally I will go to the Staples and buy a box if I've got something that's a shape that I can't find my own box, or the UPS store. The boxes tend to be expensive. It can be from $5 to $15 for a single box, to fit your item depending on the size. One of the options for packaging, that if you have smaller items, the Postal Service, small, medium, and large standard rate boxes are by far the cheapest way to go. And they're nice boxes. And they give them to you for free, by the way, if you use their their shipping service. So,
Mike, a question here is that you said that you do it yourself as you don't trust companies, but don't they guarantee their packing?
so I had a box packed by the UPS store. And full disclosure, it was an awkward set of items. It was two car seats from a 1967 Corvette. So I thought, I don't know how to pack these things. And so I took them to the UPS store, and they arrived severely damaged. And the packing, and it was because the packing was, they had made boxes around the top part of the seat and another one around the bottom, and they'd wrap, shrink wrap around it. The buyer sent me pictures. And so that was I think that's probably one of the few times, it's the only time I can actually remember that I let somebody else pack the box. Smaller items are going to be easier. It's going to be more standard for them. They can use standard size boxes. And it's absolutely an option is to let them do it for something that's not an awkward size or shape.
And it's also another suggestion for packing materials other than staples, because they can get kind of pricey. But I know Walmart has a lot of, they sell boxes and packing supplies. Yep. Is there any other place that you would recommend?
I bought it from Amazon. I bought a number of boxes and bubble wrap and craft paper, wrapping paper from a company called Uline, Uline. And they tend to supply industrial companies with packaging materials. And actually, they have a whole bunch of industrial supplies. Packaging materials is one of them. And so I have bought boxes from them. You got to buy, I think their lowest volume is 25 boxes. So I've not bought a lot of those because I don't know if I'm going to have 25 items that will fit those boxes. So I tend to be, we pack most of our stuff in boxes that came to our house from Amazon and other places. I have access, because I have a car shop, I have access to boxes that I occasionally will get from there because they get a lot of stuff shipped in and so forth. But I tend to like to have a box that I know something will fit in before I list it, because it's pretty stressful to list something, sell it, and then go, oh no, I need a box. And if it's a unique size, and obviously you can oversize the box, and anything will fit in it. You're going to use a lot more packaging material, and the shipping cost, which I pay, is going to be a lot higher. So, not to be daunted by the box, and I've gotten pretty good at finding boxes that I can make stuff fit in. But it's typically a one-off thing. Every item we sell is a different size.
So when those Corvette seats arrived damaged, you complained to the UPS store, didn't you? Or what was their response?
Their response was, well, the buyer could. In the meantime, I'd sent the guy a big refund, not a full refund, but a significant refund. The buyer I sent to. They said, well, the buyer can claim, make a claim on UPS, and not the store. On UPS, the company. And I thought, well, I'm not going to make my buyer do that. I mean, we're talking about something that was hundreds of dollars that I lost on that sale. But they really weren't sympathetic to, they had packed it and they were responsible. Their fallback was, file a claim with the UPS, or the buyer, meaning the person who received the item, can file the claim. So I didn't pursue that.
Okay.
You're going to need packing paper, some packing tape, some fragile stickers. You get a glimpse of the green tablecloth table. That is my eBay store, my eBay packaging store. You see some of the watch collection and process there. And you're going to need a computer with internet access. I'm not sure how many people who are in our discussion today actually have an eBay account. Many people may have it, but never have sold items on it. Many people have it so they can have, access to buy things. It's the same process. Once you set up an eBay account, you've got an eBay account. If you haven't set up an eBay account, it couldn't be easier. Go to eBay, hit register. you get it, you'll pick a password and a username and so forth, and they'll assign you a username. I've been using the same eBay assigned username for 15 years. And then you submit. You go to the welcome page. You'll be able to hit, hit continue from there. It'll direct you to go to the account settings. And by the way, the eBay process will cue you to the next step that you need to take. You complete the personal information, which will require a form of payment. I used to sign up originally a credit card, but I found very quickly that PayPal was a preferable way, and I encourage you to use that as well as a form of payment. Now, before you register for eBay account, to complete that registration, you need a form of payment. So you need to have either be prepared to use a credit card or have a PayPal or eBay managed payments. Well, actually, you can't set up eBay managed payments until you're set up on eBay. So eBay managed payments is brand new. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I'm not as familiar, or I'm not familiar at all, frankly, with eBay managed payments yet. And then there's an opportunity later in the process, if you have a PayPal account, to go ahead and link it, to that. So with the eBay managed payments, I'm assuming they're going to make it even easier than that to set up your payment account, which, as I emphasized earlier, I strongly feel you just have to have. And at that point, you are now, part of hundreds of millions of membership of eBay. So I talk a little bit here. Let me pause a second, see if there's questions, comments.
Yeah, there's one question saying that Craigslist is known for their scams. What about eBay? Have you heard anything about scams or things like that?
So it's not without scams. eBay is not without scams. But for the average, and that tends to be on their business seller side of things, meaning people will set up commercial eBay stores, which I don't do, and I wouldn't guess that you might, where they'll set these up through a robo system, and sell a few items, get paid, and then go out of business. And I guess that could happen with a non-commercial business seller as well. But I've not had any personal experience, and I sort of follow eBay pretty closely, and I'm not familiar with any prevalent scams. I'm sure that they occur. There's almost nothing that doesn't have a way to be defrauded.
There's always bad people in the world, and hopefully you don't interact with a lot of them.
Right. But I can tell you, I've completed over 15 years. I've sold hundreds of items, hundreds, and I've never had a single transaction that didn't go through pretty smoothly, with a couple things around shipping and damage and that sort of thing, which can happen.
And also there's another question regarding shipping. Do you include that in your price of the item that you're selling?
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the pricing section. I personally I pay for shipping, and I'll talk about why.
Okay.
I always offer free shipping. There's people I know who absolutely don't agree with that. For their own set of reasons. I'll give you mine. So I talked about PayPal, and they're moving to managed payments. This should save us a little bit of money when we move to managed payments. So we're going to go from almost 13% to an 11.5% on a sell price commission, and from 30 cents to 25 cents on the insertion. So I believe that it's going to have at least the same level of integration as they have with PayPal now, which is one of the features for using PayPal. I love it. They seem seamless to me. The only thing I can't do from eBay on PayPal is check my balance. I have to go over to log into PayPal to see my balance there. Emphasis, that's my balance, not Amy's balance. So I see how much money I have there. They are going to, undoubtedly, if you were to sign on to eBay now to set up an account, they're going to direct you to their managed payments process. Highly recommend that. That's the direction they're going. I just received an email from from eBay last week saying, please go sign up for managed payments. You will be required to use that, not PayPal, in the near future without specifying a date. So they're clearly moving that direction. They started last year in July to move their commercial accounts there. They had some startup problems. They have those all ironed out now. And so that's definitely the way to go. So any more questions on payment and setting up your account and a payment system account? Because these are kind of the tedious parts of getting things going. And trust me, if you guys can operate the kind of sewing machines and quilting machines and everything and embroidery that y'all do, this technically will seem like not even hard work because there's nothing to it. So what sells on eBay? I think you're going to find that such a broad marketplace, and it's segmented into hobby areas and so forth, just about anything sells. And it's amazing to me. We had to clean out Amy's mother's house. She passed away in the last couple of years, and we were cleaning it out this summer. And Amy's sister lived with her mother, and she had actually been in an accident, so she wasn't available. I inadvertently, in the process, threw away a 1920s doorstop that was shaped like a cat. And it was, without my knowledge, it was apparently a valuable...
It was like a cast iron thing. It weighed about 20 pounds, and it belonged to my...
I've got one.
The brand name of it began with an H. I can't remember the name, the brand. There's a specific brand of this doorstop though. And so Mike's cleaning out my mom's house, and of course I'm not there. I sent him up there to do the dirty work. He's cleaning out my mom's house, and this cast, and the cat was probably what, 8 or 10 inches tall. It's a 3D cat, so it doesn't have a flat back. It's got like a back on it, but anyway, he threw this doorstop away. And so
I go visit Amy's sister, who's in an assisted living at this point, and we're talking. She says, "What happened to Fluffy?" I go, "What in the world is Fluffy?" Well, the cast iron cat and all that sort of thing. I not only didn't remember it, throwing it away. I didn't remember it at all. And I might have been. I was unsupervised, so I might have been in a little bit of a hurry to throw stuff out. So one of Amy's other sisters knew the brand name of this cat from the 1920s. And I went onto eBay, found one, and had it shipped to me, and got it 3 days later.
For $400.
Well, yeah. There's always price. But it's amazing what you can find.
So somebody that got that cat in the box at the Goodwill got a real good deal. So we take heart in that. It made somebody's day that they found such a valuable cat.
But if you want it, it's out there, believe me. Items that are new, they could still be in the original packaging and so forth. You may have stuff like that around the house. Most stuff is used, reasonably clean. It doesn't have to be perfect, undamaged. It might be scratched, but it works. Hey, Mom,
yeah. You need to tell the story about the featherweight sewing machine.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't remember it.
So we were selling some of the sewing machines that sew to get on trade in. Okay. When people trade machines in for the trade up sale. So somebody brought in this featherweight, like from the 1950s or 1940s, really, really an old featherweight. And it was well used and pretty dinged up and everything. And so I thought, well, I always plug them in and see if they sew, before I do the write up on them. So I plugged it in, and the cord was all frayed. It had the kind of cord that had, when you plugged it into the machine, it had 2 cords coming out, one for the pedal and one for the electrical outlet. So it was really an older model. And the cord was all frayed on it, and it plugged in and the light lit, but if you jiggled the cord, anyway, it didn't sew. I mean, I said to Mike, we just have to get rid of this on eBay. It doesn't work and everything. And So I said, I looked on eBay at similar ones, and I said, the ones that run, you can get one for anywhere, you know, $300 to $500 or more, depending on if they're valuable. So we put this one out there for like $150. And I thought, we just need to get rid of it, you know, because it doesn't run and it needed work. And we put it out there for $150 and it instantly sold. I mean, the minute he hit list, see, people have automatic things set on there to identify items that they're interested in. But the minute he hit list on this broken, beat up featherweight, it sold for $150. And it shipped to China is where they wanted to ship it to, where we had it shipped to. And I said, I wonder what they're going to do with that in China. Mike says, well, maybe they're going to use it in decor, you know, like for a restaurant or something. I don't know. But we just thought that was really interesting.
I got a picture in my mind of some little old lady on a street corner in Shanghai sewing stuff for sale.
Well, you know that there are companies that they renovate featherweights.
Right.
I mean, you see them on, so they may have contracted with people in China, fix these machines and then resell them for.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't think of that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what happened.
But anyway, I mean, the minute he hit list, it sold. And he's like, wow, that's the fastest I've ever sold anything.
But that's a great example, too, of something that we believed had value. It needed to go, wasn't going to sit around here. It sort of kind of worked, but not really. And we wrote a description that was very transparent about its condition. And we took photos of the frayed cord. We said it doesn't really work. It doesn't work all the time. And whatever the flaws in it that existed, we were really clear about those things. And again, it had value. Somebody wanted it. We were honest about what its condition really was, and it sold. People such as ourselves tend to have a lot of different hobbies. We might be into different collectibles, things that we've inherited from our parents or grandparents that have value, but we don't want them anymore, or never wanted them to begin with. And we know, in fact, that they might be, prized by other people. Collector items, there's whole kinds of collector items, and there's different sections within eBay for those people who are interested in, different types of sewing things, vintage featherweight machines, for example, and so forth. And importantly, items that you're prepared to have a reasonable and competitive price and have the most desirable features. You may have something that has standard options, but not all the desirable features. You just have to price it accordingly.
One thing I do want to interject here is that with the sewing machines that we've sold, the sewing machines that have a USB port, the embroidery machines that have a USB port will sell for more money than an embroidery machine that does not have a USB port. We've gotten some older models of embroidery machines that only take cards, and those basically will sell for the price of a sewing machine. The embroidery is negated at this point when there's no USB port, because there's no way for people to import designs. I just thought I would throw that in there.
Yeah, good example.
Yeah.
So what doesn't sell on eBay? Anything that you consider junk doesn't sell on eBay. People don't want your junk. You're expending effort for something that's not going to sell, or it's going to have a low value. And one man's treasure, or one man's junk is another man's treasure. I actually believe that that's the case. But you can be the judge of whether something really is sellable or not. Things that don't work, things that are excessively dirty, missing key features or parts that make them not usable for their intended purpose. Again, if it's a collectible item, maybe it will sell, maybe it won't. You have to judge each item on its own merit. I'm very cautious about selling things that I consider to be unsafe. Whether it's broken wires, electrical cords, You know, the featherweight, you know, being something that we described fully as an exception. Outdated technology. So some people don't care. And the example that Amy used about we sold several machines that had embroidery units but there was no ability to download patterns or designs because of the lack of a USB port. People buy them as sewing machines, but you have to price them accordingly.
And people will say, you know, I really don't want the embroidery module, and so they don't want to pay to ship that, you know. So, you know, you just have to kind of work with people on that kind of thing.
Right. There's great messaging back and forth between the seller, meaning yourself, and potential buyers, all within eBay. So you don't even have to give them your email address. You know, the example that I used of the Corvette seats, I doubt that I would do that again, just because they're so difficult to ship, and you know, I gave back most of the money of the value they were worth. I would have been better off taking those to a car show, in other words, somewhere where a common interest exists, and sell them, you know, even for half the price. I would have been money and aggravation ahead. There are items that are prohibited to be sold on eBay. You can read that on eBay's rules. You know, guns and pornography and you know, grenades and that sort of thing are the type of things that they're talking about. So let me pause again, see if questions, comments.
Yeah, Mike, there was a question regarding the payment. Is eBay 11% in addition to the 30% what they charge?
Yes. Yes.
The 30% is that if you have somebody who'll sell it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Amy. Let me be clear on that. When I mention here somewhere about the resellers selling 30%, those are people like me who take your item and sell it for you. I'm not eBay. I'm just a guy in his basement who considers himself to be a reseller. And there's people who make a living doing this. They'll come fetch your item. They'll put it on eBay, do all the hard work of shipping and all that sort of thing, and they get 30 to 50%. That is on top of what eBay charges. Typically, that's on top of that. But that's not an eBay sale. That's a private individual doing resell items for you. I get lots of bids, and we have sold a lot of items to resellers. So they see my item, they say, okay, I'm a collector of that type of machine or car part, or in the case of model trains, I had a lot of this, where these guys have a lot of those sort of things. They have a regular eBay store, and they buy stuff to put on it, but those are resellers, and that's not eBay itself. So if you are selling something, you are going to pay 35 cents per listing and 10% of the selling price. And you do the listing, you do the selling, you do the packing and shipping.
Okay. Also, another question is, how do I find a reseller? So I guess somebody like yourself, are you up for hire?
If somebody wishes to sell something and they want me to do it, I will do it for them. I've done that for a few people. I'm not in the business, but if I've got an eBay store right over here behind me. It's a picnic
is there another
table.
person that if they want to find a reseller, how do they do that also?
So
they didn't want to go through you.
Yeah, so you're going to want to find somebody who's close to you so that they can physically come pick up your item, or you can drop it off. So Nextdoor has people who have their eBay shingle out, their eBay reseller shingle out. That's where I've seen resellers, is on Nextdoor and Craigslist. They say, hey, if you have items to sell. On the car stuff, and even on some of the sewing stuff, because of some of the stuff that I've been involved in with Sona, I actually get, you know, invitations to join forums and that sort of thing. They have people that will actually, you know, advertise to resell your stuff, but you want it to be local, because you don't want to have to pay to ship it once, so they can package it and resell it and so forth. If you go to a reseller and you're willing to pay 30 to 50%, and as I said earlier, they earn their money, then you really want it to be easy. You want them to do it for you and not have to worry about shipping it to them. You want them to be able to come pick it up. So.
Okay. And another question was regarding buy now feature, but you're going to be speaking about that later on.
Right.
And I don't understand this one. It says, have you shipped via a shipping company that is used to sending furniture, etc.?
Yes. Yes. Great question. So once you get past the point in terms of weight or size of something, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, perhaps, that UPS, FedEx, or USPS will handle, then they're shipping companies. And so they tend to be specialized, but they're accessible through aggregators. So an example of that is there is a website, a company, I think it's just a website and a bunch of people on the phone it's called shipmystuff.com. Shipmystuff.com. I have used them to ship furniture. I've used them to ship car engines, transmissions, refrigerators. Oh my goodness, I should have used them to ship my car seats. But they'll do everything. So what they do is they find a shipping company that has a traffic lane and a what they call an LTL, less than truckload shipment, heading the direction that your item needs to go, and they'll come pick it up and ship it. Those are for oversized or heavy stuff, and you're talking about stuff that's more than 100 pounds typically.
And do they pack it for you? Do you have to do any bubble wrapping or anything, or do they just handle everything?
Yeah, since I'm so picky about my packaging, I've done all the packaging myself, even car engines. At the car shop, we've got a strapping machine, so we've got the equipment to shrink wrapper and all this sort of thing to do all that. But they will also do that for you. It's just extra cost. So if you've got a valuable enough item, so you call, you actually can get a quote online. You go on shipmystuff.com. You tell them what you have. You tell them the weight, the size. You tell them what it is, because stuff ships in different classes depending on whether it's electronics or furniture or a refrigerator, for example, has a compressor with contaminants in it and that sort of thing. So there's shipping classes. They figure all that out. They'll give you a quote for the shipping, for the packaging. If it's heavy enough, which in some cases I've had, where you need to have a truck with a lift on it, that all comes. They turnkey that whole thing for you, and within several days they'll come pick it up and it's gone.
Do they give you a quote on that first? Because let's say you're sending okay. They create it for you and everything, or do you have to create it, or do they create it?
So they, again, I tend to create everything myself because I have access to the equipment and the tools and so forth. But they will do it for you. I've never had them do it for me,
yeah.
but
it's with the price. You can have anything done, but it's just the price.
You can have anything done. So there's shipmystuff.com, but there's a number of freight aggregators. There's one called White Glove. And so that's for if you have an antique piece of furniture that, it's really valuable. It's not like an old refrigerator or an old car transmission or anything like that. It's really valuable. And, cosmetically, it needs to be as perfect as it is sitting in your house. White Glove will actually come and give white glove treatment. They require that they do the packaging. So they'll come get your item.
Yeah, because they want to ensure that, to make sure everything is shipped properly.
That's right. Now, that tends to be slower, meaning that it's going to take longer for them to come get your item and longer for them to get it prepared and so forth. So you're going to have a lag time, but who cares? So.
And also, what about a dog carriage or a pram that a child pushes? Would you ship my stuff? I would probably buy it on Amazon and have it shipped to the family. But anyway, unless it's an area.
Right. Yeah.
But would you ship my stuff to send that, like a baby carriage?
So it probably doesn't meet the weight requirements that warrant ship my stuff, because you're going to pay a lot of money. That something like that, you know, I probably would ship myself or package myself, or, you know, I might take that to the UPS store, and the only thing I would do different is supervise the you know, the packing. I'm trying to think of something I've sold that was rather fragile, not too heavy, but big. Nothing comes immediately to mind, but I'd have to kind of figure that out.
Yeah. It's like anything else. You have to like ask questions, send emails to find out how much it's going to ship. If you have to get packaged, you know, a box and things like that, that's where the price really comes up, you know.
It does, yeah. And you know, the group of y'all that are on the phone who are used to figuring stuff out, I mean, in the end, isn't a quilting or sewing project a problem solving project. So you guys are good at problem solving anyway. Every item is different, but it's going to fall within a, you know, after you do a few things, it's going to fall within a set of parameters that don't vary that much.
All right, thank you, Mike. That's okay, it for the questions right now, I think.
All right, so now you've got, you know, what sells, what doesn't sell, and you're going to get your item ready to sell it. I've mentioned this before. I can't overemphasize this. Write a great description. If it has flaws in it, point those out. If you can take a photograph of the flaw, in other words, I've got, you know, items that it might have a scratch on it. Even if I think it's not that noticeable, I take a photo of it and include that in one of my 12 photos, because I don't want there to be any surprises at the other end. And frankly, once people see that scratch, they themselves will decide that's inconsequential. Any documentation, manuals, instructions, paperwork, original receipts, people love original receipts. I mentioned before also taking good pictures. And you know, none of us are professional photographers, but you know, something where you can actually, you know, the light is good. You know, don't take a picture of something with, you know, the cat in the foreground and the TV on in the background and the, you know, other junk that you have for sale around it. You know, set it aside, or, you know, put it out on a kitchen counter where it's basically an uncluttered photo. Take all angles, use all 12, and trust me, your cell phone photos are just fine. You don't have to use a regular camera. I take pictures with the cell phone. I email them to myself. You know, when I download on my computer, I can just easily pull those over into eBay. Could not be, I just drag and drop them into eBay. Could not be easier. And I always do this in advance because I don't like surprises, but I weigh and measure my item, and I'll talk a little bit about what I do with that information, but I weigh and measure my item. And I also mentioned before, I'd like to have a box already picked out that I know can ship, because it can ship in, because I don't need the stress of having sold something and I don't have a box. So you've already got an eBay account. You've got a PayPal or eBay managed payment account. You've done your research, you've gone on to eBay and you've looked at prices, you've gone on to special interest forums, and you have an understanding of what those important features and prices are. It doesn't take 5 minutes to figure out what the competition is selling their stuff for that are similar or the same as yours on eBay. I actually do the write-up, or Amy does the write-up in Microsoft Word, and then I can just cut and paste that into my listing. I have my photos that are already in my download box, so doing the listing doesn't take but 10 minutes, because you've done the hard work. You figured out what you have. You've got a box. You know how you're going to package it. You figured out the price. So I've shown the first screen here. So this is my eBay account, and all I've pointed out here in the red circle is you go down there and you hit sell an item. eBay leads you through the process of describing your item, which is the headline that'll be on your listing. It pre-populates a lot of your of the fields that you have in terms of manufacturer's name and so forth. Those that it doesn't, you either have a requirement, it'll say required, the brand name is required, that type of thing. A price is required, etc. And it'll lead you through those things that are required, and you can, and frankly, once I have my headline in, you have to declare it used or new, and that's required. if you have a used item, it asks for the condition, and I always write great condition. I wouldn't put it out there. If it's damaged, I'll say it has a scratch on the left side, type of thing. I put my 12 photos out there. I sell everything as a fixed price item. You can choose an auction price, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. You indicate on it, it's required that you pick a shipping service. I always put USPS. I check the box free shipping because I want to choose the shipper, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. It really leads you through the process. At the very bottom, it says, list my item, and your item is out there, and it is for sale. And it's amazing how people are trolling eBay looking just for your item. So the biggest question that you'll have when you get into this is, really, what is my item worth? You can go out and look at the competition, and that is absolutely the place to start. It may be the place you end up choosing your price. It should be. It's pretty easy to find things that are comparable, maybe a little bit different. Some things have features that you don't. You may have features that they don't. If I could encompass the whole pricing discussion, I would do it right here. Be realistic. You want it to sell. Your stuff is always worth more to you than what it is to somebody else. But it's a marketplace, and the competition will drive what your price ends up being. Amy mentioned the embroidery machine that doesn't have a USB port for designs. It will only sell for the price of a sewing machine. Be realistic about that. Don't consider what you paid for something. It's going to be worth more, but it's likely going to be worth less than what you paid for it. The current market is what dictates the pricing. I'll talk more about shipping. As I mentioned, I include shipping, and I'll give you the reasons why on that. But if an item sells for $10, but I know it's going to, if I'm going to list it for $10 and I know it's going to take $3.50 to ship it, I'll charge $13.50 or maybe $13, give them a little bit of a break, for that. But I want to get paid for the shipping, but I want to control it. Be prepared to negotiate with your buyer. eBay buyers love to negotiate, and it's so easy on eBay. Basically they can submit an offer, and it has to fall within certain ranges, and I'll describe that in a few minutes. I always, if they're near my asking price, I accept the offer. But 90% of the time, I'll negotiate for a couple more bucks. If I've offered something for $15, they offer 10. I know I'm paying the shipping. I'll go back at $13, and 99.9% of the time they buy it. They have the opportunity to submit 4 offers, and you have the opportunity to submit 4 counter offers. After that, they have to start over again if they want to ship it. I have turned down or rejected offers or made counter offers that they didn't accept, and I've gone back later and accepted their earlier offer because I was tired of having it here, and I thought, well, that must be the market, so nobody else is buying it, so it's time for it to go. I really try to price to sell. I mean, that sounds self-obvious, but it's not as easy to come to that number. I try to go in a little higher than what the comparable items are that I see on eBay and Craigslist. And honestly, I don't look much beyond eBay because of the differences between that and Facebook and Craigslist that we discussed earlier. And then I add my shipping in. Amy and I always discuss what's the bottom line, what's the lowest number that we will take for this item. I probably have sold stuff for less than that, but I don't think so. I don't remember, much. There's not much that we decide to sell and that I actually list that's ever here for more than a few days. It usually sells, maybe because I price it too low. I think I'm just pricing it to sell. And then I'll use our bottom line number as what I describe as a reject price, which I'll show you later. So let's talk about shipping a little bit. So USPS, which isn't the end all and be all, because you got FedEx, you got UPS, there's other carriers. DHL is not a service that's offered through eBay. eBay offers USPS, UPS, and FedEx. And eBay has negotiated some smoking hot rates with USPS. And with the exception of this last holiday season, they've been, in my opinion, a great shipping service. But they have on their website, USPS.com, they have a shipping calculator. So you can put the weight, you can put the dimensions, and I just picked some random, cities around the country. So far west, New England, usually southern Florida, and then I just kind of triangulate to come up with what I think the shipping cost is going to be, so that I can consider that for what my pricing, should be. And when it's amazing, Amy and I always are surprised how the people on the West Coast love free shipping because it's far away, and they're going, well, I don't have to worry about shipping. And that's one of the odd reasons why I offer free shipping. And you can choose to do it whichever way you're most comfortable with, but it differentiates your item. In other words, they know what they're going to, everybody else you have this unknown called shipping. It takes that unknown out of their buying decision. So you want as many obstacles to them buying your item as you possibly can. And then I get to decide where and how it ships. So I can go FedEx, I can go USPS. People have a little bit of a negative perspective about USPS. I don't, but a lot of people do. And they don't want me to use USPS. Well, I'm paying freight. I decide what shipper I use. I've had good success with USPS, and they are almost without exception, and until you get into an item that's more than 50 pounds, they're almost without exception the lowest price. And it's all integrated with eBay. You pick your shipper, you pick your destination, you pick your what day you're going to ship, like tomorrow. You can generate a shipping label, tape it to the front of the box and take it down to the post office. It really is pretty easy. So once you have a listing up, let me pause there again because I'm going awful fast and I want to invite questions.
I have some questions here. It says, have you sold clothes and how do you photograph them?
So we have sold clothes, and
what clothes have we sold? I can't think of any.
And what you do is you lay them out.
The other woman, Amy.
Okay.
Yeah. So you lay them out on the bed or on the floor. Take a photograph of all sides. Photographs speak when it comes to clothing and garments and fabric. Photographs say it all. You can have a description. What are you going to say about a sweater? You can say the size and that sort of thing. So
there's a lot of things to say about a sweater, Mike.
Is it? Well, I'm a man. I have one type of sweater. It's black and it's stretchy, so.
Also, it says, doesn't including the price of shipping make the item more expensive than other similar items?
It does, but absolutely. And I try to make sure that it is more expensive than the comparable items, because people know that you're paying the free, but on your listing, it says free shipping. And even with a little bit higher price, they know, they have a known in terms of what they're going to pay, and they don't have to worry about shipping costs. And gee, I wonder what it's going to cost me. If I pay $10, but I got to pay to have it shipped, is it going to be $3? Is it going to be $5? Are they going to use UPS? They're going to use UPS. What shipper are they going to use? It's a big unknown.
Well, Mike, you were selling your machine and somebody from China purchased it. Now, selling your featherweight in this country, and if you already have the shipping, it's already included. But if you're going to ship it out of the country, it's a lot more money. Like, how do you know where you're going to send it to?
Right. So great question. Thank you. So I tend to, So when you put a listing on eBay, you can put in geographic areas that you wish to include or not include. So I always include North and South America, which includes US, Canada, Mexico, and all of the Latin and Southern American countries. I always put in Western Europe, so France, England, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, etc. I will include China and Korea, but I exclude India, Thailand, places like that. And mostly because I worry about the amount of time that it takes and so forth. China actually has a pretty well-developed, postal system, shipping system, and so forth. So,
hey, Mike, say something about the aggregate shipping that they do for.
Yeah, the global shipping program.
Yeah.
So that's what I was leading to. So you can restrict it as much as you want. And there's some people that never sell outside of the United States. They won't even ship to Alaska, for example. But for those things that go outside of the 50 states, you can elect, and I strongly recommend that you do, to check the box called eBay Global Shipping Program. And what that does is allows you to market to those countries that I just described outside of the United States, but you only have to pay to ship it to Erlanger, Kentucky, which is Cincinnati Airport, where eBay aggregates all of the shipments that are going, overseas. They put them on, airplanes and containers and so forth, and they ship it for you. So your freight for that item, like a sewing machine, because I've shipped them, I have shipped sewing machines all over the world. They go to Erlanger, Kentucky. I pay whatever the freight is to Erlanger, which is, not that far. Everything depends on the weight and size, and they will pay for that. There is no extra fee to you, the seller, for that, but eBay takes care of getting it to the buyer, which is important. They take care of all the export, import paperwork, customs duties, taxes, and so forth. I have had buyers in other countries react on that to say, I don't want you to use eBay Global Shipping Program because I'll just pay you for the item and for the shipping that it costs to send it to, Shenzhen, China. And I reject that. I don't do that because so when we ship it through Global Shipping Program, eBay Global Shipping Program, the buyer has to pay the import duties, taxes, excise fees, and so forth. And of course, they don't want to do that. I've only had one guy who didn't want to do that. Now, eventually, he bought my item, and so he did pay it. But the eBay Global Shipping Program is just awesome, and it just takes away a lot of the complexity, but allows you to open your markets. We've sold a lot of stuff to Asia. Japan, China, as I said, not India, Korea, South Korea.
Some of your railroad stuff went to China, didn't it?
It did. I've had a lot of stuff go to China.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's also questions, I know that you're going to speak about this later, about buy now and auction,
Right.
And
right.
also it says, can you offer a watcher a deal?
Boy, I've never done that. Maybe you can. I know you can. So if you've got, you can offer a watcher. Yeah, not a viewer, but a watcher. And I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay. Also, and what do you do when you have a customer who asks a specific shipper, such as FedEx, when you prefer USPS? Sorry.
So if I'm paying the shipping, which in my case, I'm doing all the shipping, and I've had customers, specify, please use FedEx. And if it's cheaper, I use it. If it isn't, I just do what I want. I'm paying.
Okay. And do you insure the packages also?
So I don't add extra insurance to so the package, I do all my shipping labels through the eBay application, through the eBay screen. And they will they offer a certain amount of insurance. I think it's pretty low. I think it's it's $100, but they know what your item's worth, right? Because you just sold it
right. You just sold it, yeah.
to eBay, and they'll recommend the extra insurance. I haven't bought it. I've not regretted that. But as an extra precaution, you could do so. And it's cheap. I mean, we're talking about, a few bucks. And it may be worth the peace of mind. I had one shipment that went to Puerto Rico that was a sewing embroidery machine. And
it was an old Artista 880, I think, something. And the guy was buying it for his wife for their wedding anniversary, like for a gift. And he was like really excited about it. And the embroidery unit and the machine shipped in 2 separate boxes. And the machine arrived, but the embroidery unit did not. And he sent Mike an email and he said, oh, my the embroidery unit didn't arrive. It took the machine like 3 weeks to get there, didn't it, Mike? Like
something like that. Yeah. Well, and it was a situation where he didn't actually have delivery to his house, so he had to walk into town to the post office, because I did it USPS, every day to see if it was there. I imagine a pretty primitive situation.
And so he sent Mike an email and he said, the machine arrived, but the embroidery unit hasn't. And Mike says, well, give it a few more days and see if it arrives. And if not, I'm going to give you a full refund, because he bought it as an embroidery machine. And if the embroidery unit is missing. So anyway, Mike did some follow up, and because you can track it, and found that the embroidery unit was sitting at the post office in this guy's little town. And so he emailed the guy back and he said, I tracked the embroidery unit and it's at your post office. And so the guy went and picked it up, and all's well that ends well. But it does require some follow-up.
Yep.
When these things happen.
Yep.
So
Other questions, Kathy?
That's it for now. What do you do when you have a customer who asks, oh, never mind. We got it done. Well, all the questions have been answered except for the auction and buy nows, but I know that you're going to be talking about that.
Great. Okay. Let me forge ahead. I'm aware that we're almost noon here, so I don't want to test everybody's patience. I'll try to keep moving along, but I want your questions. So once you list an item, you're going to see that you'll start to see a tally of viewers versus watchers. Of course, the more viewers, the more watchers, the more people are looking at it. Once somebody puts in that they're a watcher, that's a signal that they're more interested than somebody just looking at it. And the eBay system then will prompt you, send them an offer, a watcher. I don't do that. I've already offered it. I already have it out there. I already have a price. You make an offer. I'm not going to negotiate against myself. So, but it is a way to move things along. What I tend to do is if I get multiple watchers on an item, I'll go in and reduce the price. I'll revise my listing by 5 or 10%. And people who are really serious, the watchers, will jump on it. So, but you can send them an offer. So that means they're interested enough, and they're in a sense, they're soliciting you to make an offer. I don't respond that way, because I have, especially if I've got multiple watchers, let's keep the competition. Why would I negotiate against myself? I mentioned offers and counter offers. You can get up to 4. I don't send an offer, as I just mentioned. I wait for them to give me an offer, and I always get them. You can go in and revise your listing. You can change any of the description, add photos, take photos out. I've had, particularly on the model train stuff, I've had potential buyers send me a message, say, you got the wrong brand on that. And I go, okay, well, I didn't know, it's not marked, but they know better than I do. I'll go in and revise my listing, but I mostly revise the listing to reduce the price. If something is languishing for several days, up to a week out there, I'll go in and reduce the price a little bit and see if I can, especially if I have watchers, to see if I can solicit somebody to make an offer on it. I've never had anything where the listing was up that I had to take it down. I don't know what eBay's rules are as far as how long you can leave it up. I think it's indefinite, but I always sell. So I've never had to deal with that. And instincts after this many items is selling. If it doesn't sell in the first few days, you got something wrong, and it's typically the price. So I go in and revise it, reduce it, and it sells. So I've mentioned the outer offer and counter offer. Set your bottom line. Make sure you know what the least amount you'll take for it. Keep active offers alive. If they offer too low, don't ignore them. And I very rarely have rejected an offer. You know, I'll send back a note and say, you know, here's why I think you know, your price is too low or my price isn't. And there's all kinds of people, and I'll talk more about the reject level of pricing and the accept level of pricing and so forth. But there's people out there, they'll put enough offers in until they figure out where you are in terms of your pricing. And I call them bottom fishers. They tend to want to buy stuff for the absolute lowest price. I'm not that anxious to sell stuff at the lowest price. Ultimately, they may prevail, but I just kind of like put up with them. It's not a big aggravation. If offers are too low, I explain and I give them a counter offer. And once we come to a negotiation, I don't think I've ever had, maybe I've had a few, I don't recall them actually, where after multiple offer counter offers within the 4 limit, the item doesn't sell. I don't think I've ever had anything that doesn't sell. So once it does, I'll hit accept the offer. I'll verify that they actually are that I get paid through PayPal, because I want to make sure of that. I should have done that earlier, but I always make sure. And then I'll accept the offer. And it's time to close that transaction. Once you accept the offer, the system will automatically, I always check the box also that I want immediate payment through PayPal. The system, the eBay system, will automatically send an invoice to the buyer. They go in and pay through their PayPal account or their credit card or whatever payment method they've chosen. And you get notification of that, and it's time to ship it. There can be a lag. I don't think I've ever had one go more than like 48 hours. I think after 48 hours, they get notification from eBay that they need to pay. I've had a few that have gone that long, but not very many. But I don't ship it. I might go ahead and pack it, but I don't ship it until I've got the money in my PayPal account. I mean, to me, that protects the whole security of the system. And if you ship it before they've paid, well, you've just compromised that. I probably do overkill on packaging. My rationale is that a few pennies more of bubble wrap, cushioning paper, and such is kind of an inexpensive way to protect the sale. Because if stuff arrives damaged, you're going to end up giving them, especially if it's damaged beyond repair, you're going to end up giving them a full refund and incurring the cost of bringing it back. Well, I ask them to pay the shipping back. Typically, I tell them to keep it, but there's no sense selling something if you're not going to make sure it gets there safe. So I probably do overkill on the packaging, and I've had very good success with stuff arriving safely. So once it's paid, I do the final weight dimension on the package. I print a label through eBay, which couldn't be easier. I get to choose my UPS, FedEx, or USPS. I tape it up and I put it in the car and I take it to the post office, UPS, or FedEx store within 48 hours. So I'm going to pause there a second, see if there's any more questions.
No, I think we have them all so far. Yes.
Good. Okay, so now you've sold your item. eBay will, when you go into your sold items tab on your eBay main page, it gives you an opportunity to leave feedback for the buyer, about the buyer. I always, 100% of the time, do that for selfish reasons. I want their feedback. I'm assuming it's going to be positive because I've just had a successful sale and so forth. Sometimes I'll wait until I see that the item has been delivered, which is also an automatic update on your main page of eBay in the sold section. But I always give feedback. If I don't get feedback, I ask for feedback. I'll send them a message and say, hey, I provided you eBay, or eBay feedback. Really, please, you bought my item. Please provide feedback for me, because your reputation on eBay, there's an implicit trust that underpins the whole process around eBay that the feedback mechanism supports. And so I highly recommend dealing with that. I've never had negative feedback. I've never had anybody say, give a negative feedback on eBay. I think the reason isn't because I'm perfect or everything has gone extremely well, because it has, but there are issues. I make sure they never reach the point where they're tempted to give me negative feedback. Meaning that if they're dissatisfied with something, I'll give them a discount refund. I've rarely, I mean, in all the items I've sold, I can't imagine there's been 10 items where I've had to give a partial or full refund. If, like the guy who received the damaged seats, car seats, I did give him a not full refund, but a partial refund. But most importantly, I was responsive. When he got them, he immediately messaged me. I immediately, sent a note back. I didn't argue with him. I didn't debate with him. He sent me pictures. I was happy. He was happy. And so while he ended up with some seats that were damaged, he had to go to the trouble of getting them fixed and so forth. He gave me a high rating and great comments. So that's how I deal with negative feedback and with dissatisfied customers. I try to head that off before they get too upset and before too much time goes by, because time is your enemy when things haven't gone well. You're better off dealing with things quickly. And I've had people comment back to feedback, say, had a little bit of a problem, but this guy came back quickly, he responded quickly, and wasn't and kept at it until I was happy with things. So important to protect your reputation. And I've discussed full or partial refunds. I'll tell you, folks, it's addictive. Once you get past some of the being daunted by the process and the shipping and the box and the all this sort of thing, it's not that hard. You guys figure out much more challenging things than that all the time. And it becomes addictive in terms of getting stuff out of the way, turning it into cash that you can then go get something else. And it really is for me, it's been, pretty gratifying. And as I said, it becomes pretty darn, addictive. So a couple things. When Kathy distributes, I'm not going to go through these charts, but when Kathy distributes a document, you'll have all of these. I've emphasized the global shipping program here. This is when you're listing your item. There's some things that are automatically updated by eBay. It's really cool. It's really helpful. Here's a picture of a sewing machine we just sold and the photos that I added to the listing. It's got the brand. You're able to put in what its capabilities are. You can see in the red circles, I've highlighted those items. Here's the description of the machine that Amy developed. And that's not all of it, by the way. That's just what showed on one screen. It actually goes on a list of all those things that come with it. We talked about fixed price versus auction. I've never done an auction, mostly because you have to monitor it a little bit more than I like to spend the time doing. And we're allowed to have a negotiation anyway, right? So I didn't ever see the benefit of the auction, and I'll show you in a minute the real reason I don't do it. But you put in what you choose fixed price. In that drop down there, you would see auction as the other option. You put in your buy it now price. You have the opportunity to accept every offer over a certain amount of money. I always do this, makes it easier. And in this case, Amy and I decided that our bottom line was $200. I will tell you, we ended up selling the machine for $225. But I could check the box of automatically decline any offers lower than that, because I don't want to see them. I don't need to see them. I chose at the very bottom there in the circle, I chose PayPal and immediate payment. You can see there's some other options in there that I don't personally worry about. Here's an auction listing. So it's not dissimilar information. So starting price, they can still buy it for $300 immediately if they want. You have the opportunity to put in the automatic acceptance or the automatic rejection. But right here is the reason I don't do it. It costs, if you put a reserve price in, which to me is the same as putting in what your reject price is. In this case, the dollars are different, but it costs $20 to do a reserve price. And to me, having an auction that has no reserve price is at risk of giving your item away, meaning that if the highest auction price is $50, that's what it's going to sell for. So why would you have an auction if you're not going to put a reserve price in? A reserve price in this case would cost $20. I just don't see the value in doing that. That's my, feelings, but other people may feel differently. You have to put in your sales tax jurisdiction. You need to indicate whether you will take a return or not. And I always select that the buyer will pay return shipping. And that kind of puts a little bit of a barrier up to where they really have to decide if they don't like the item, or if it really doesn't work, or if it's really damaged, or really wasn't what they expected. It just kind of introduces a little bit of honesty in the system, in my opinion. Lots of red circles here. I won't go through all of these except to point out free shipping, international shipping. So I always select the global shipping program if I allow shipping outside of the country, weight and dimensions, and you hit list. So that'll all be in the document that you receive. So, and I guess I did go through them, but questions.
Yeah, one is the income tax ramification, and does eBay send the tax notification for tax return purposes?
Great question. Thank you, Kathy. So I always put in the retail tax rate for North Carolina. If my item sells to California, eBay will automatically apply the state, county, and local jurisdiction tax rates. They collect the tax. They pay the state of California, and I get the money for my item. So they handle all of the documentation around state and local taxes, which is great. Otherwise, you'd have to track all of that. So,
Kathy, did that answer your question? I hope so. I guess there's no other questions unless she's
wait. Whoa! I was on mute, so I'm a little confused. So they will do the sales tax for you, and also they will track so that when you do your tax return, you get a notice like a W-2 type thing.
Actually, it's more simple than even that. eBay collects the tax. They pay the local jurisdiction, so they pay the state of California for a California sale. Okay. It's on their tax return, not ours. I'm just a guy selling stuff out of the basement, so you don't have to report anything. It doesn't show up as a taxable item to be reported on your personal taxes.
All right.
They don't take the tax out of your sale price.
They do.
Okay, that's the fee. That's part of their fee. Well,
no, I answered that incorrectly. They charge the buyer for the tax. So if I sell something for $20 and it has state and local taxes in California of 8%, they charge the buyer the $1.60 taxes, and they pay it. They pay that, and eBay takes that money and reports it to the state of California and pays the state of California.
Okay, so
I have a quick question, Mike, on eBay. Let's say that you make $10,000 off all the stuff that you've purchased. Do you then get anything from eBay saying, hey, this seller has collected X amount of money that then you would have to put into your tax return as money that you have.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Right. I think that's
right. Right. So we are casual sellers. We're just selling stuff to another interested party. Okay. You know, so I don't think I've ever sold in a single, well, that's probably not true. Especially some of the car stuff is high. I've probably had years where I've sold, you know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, you know, worth of stuff, maybe a couple times over 10,000. I am not required to report that as income. That transaction was completely captured. The state and local taxes paid for. I have no income tax responsibility for that. It's like selling you my old car. I don't have to report that as income. That is not a taxable event for me for personal income tax purposes.
Gotcha.
Is that sort of like new versus used or loved, previously loved?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the actual term that the state of North Carolina and other states use. It's not a casual. We're not casual, but we're non-commercial, you know, sellers. Okay. So we don't have a business license. We don't have an established website, and all those sort of things that would comprise what I can't think of the word that would comprise an established business.
You don't have a business entity that you're using to sell this through.
That's right. That's right. And I would encourage you when you're setting this up. So I know people who have set up a personal eBay account, and they've set it up through their company name because, you know, they're the car shop that I have is a great example. We years ago ended up disconnecting the eBay account from the name of the business because it looked like an established business. It was an established business, but we were just selling old stuff on eBay that we needed to get rid of. Very much like you and I.
Any more questions? I guess that's it for now. For Mike, thank you so much. It's an awesome presentation, very informative. And I'm sure that everybody will be appreciative. He's going to send me the PowerPoint, and then we will send it to everybody who signed up for B Club, for Be Inspired.
Yeah, and if y'all have any questions or follow-up, go through Kathy so she can kind of serve as a single point of contact. But I'm happy to, you know, to respond to that. I've had a lot of fun. We've made a little bit of money, and, you know, we get a lot of fun just out of getting stuff out of the house. So
good for you. Well, thanks again. Thanks again, Mike. But